Hey everyone, this is Mark Treichel with another episode of With Flying Colors. I'm excited to be here with Jason Stverak, the Chief Advocacy Officer of the Defense Credit Union Council. I almost got it right, but Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yourself, Mark?
I cannot complain in any way, shape, or form. You've been on the podcast a couple of times before. It's been a while, but I thought it would be good to touch base with you to just take your temperature on what's happening in the world of credit unions today, what's happening at DCUC, what's happening with your old clients, your new clients, what's happening on Capitol Hill. So with that as a backdrop, what do you want to talk about first, Jason?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to talk about what's going up on Capitol Hill. I mean, you would notice it by kind of looking around, but we're still in a partial government shutdown. We still have the Department of Homeland Security, which still hasn't received its appropriation. And where that's concerning to credit unions is that is where the Coast Guard is funded. And DCUC has three Coast Guard credit unions, as well as there's many coasties that are part of many other credit unions and defense credit unions specifically. So that's a significant military, I like to call them, population that is going without pay right now. They're on the front lines, defending the borders, protecting the seas. I think you saw Senator Fetterman yesterday shared a video of a Coast Guard saving a man's life there just off the coast of Pennsylvania. And they're showing up every single day without a paycheck. And that's incredibly concerning because while once again, credit unions are leading the way and stepping in and doing loan forbearances and skip payments and temporary loans, the generosity and support from credit unions does not make up for the guarantee of a paycheck. And if I'm a Coast Guard pilot out of Kodiak, Alaska, that's been dispatched in a storm to save fishermen out in the Bering Sea, I don't want them to ever have to worry about like, hey, do we have the money to pay for the home loan? Does my wife have or my spouse have enough money, for food or for groceries or, for car repairs? And that's the situation we're putting the men and women of the Coast Guard in. And while there are tens of thousands of other federal employees in the agency from TSA and obviously ICE and Border Patrol, et cetera. But this policy fight we're having over ICE and Border Patrol is not just impacting those individuals, it's impacting tens of thousands of other families that credit unions are stepping in to take care of them like we've done in the past. And that is something that we continually push both the administration and both sides of leadership, Republicans and Democrats, to say, we understand that you don't agree on this one issue, but to come in to protect our nation are guaranteed of a paycheck every 2 weeks, and we can't seem to get them there. But thankfully, credit unions across the country, particularly those that are near Coast Guard bases, are serving those individuals. And then we once again salute them and will continually tell their story.
Yeah, it's credit unions always do step up. It's great that the credit unions you represent have you there to remind the people on Capitol Hill that politics and gridlock really don't need to be played every day of the year, right?
You're 100% right, Mark. And credit unions are doing this while our friends, I don't know, you said you pulled up my LinkedIn, my post from a couple days ago of an op-ed kind of calling out once again the ICBA for their attacks last week on banks that are selling to credit unions, whether they be a branch or the entire bank, that is a call to revisit credit unions' tax status, and we're only going to go for the owing tax of those at $1 billion and above. It's disingenuous. And we finally kind of, we're not going to allow them to continually get away with this because the argument, as much as they try to sit on their high horse about this, it's not about a policy. It's about protecting their dues. And the fact that they argue and fight against a bank selling to a credit union, yet they really don't have an issue if a bank sells to another bank because they stay within the system that they can then assess a higher due based upon asset size.
Sure.
And what they're doing is we're choosing dues over the fiduciary responsibility that the owners of the local bank have to find the highest price for their shareholders. That's capitalism. We have no
It's
issue with that at all.
capitalism.
And the fact is that those banks are going to get sold anyway. But the mere fact that you say you're attacking credit unions from getting into that market to ensure that there is a local financial institution around for them, not one that's owned by, the Upper East Side of Manhattan, but one that is owned by an institution in Manhattan, Kansas, it's continually, it's tough that we are continually, as we go back to what we did in the last government shutdown, what we're doing for the Coast Guard and this, what credit unions are stepping up for federal employees, to then have to deal with the ICBA and the rest of the banking lobby attacking credit unions for the very structure that Congress set up to, for credit unions. We are member owned. We don't serve shareholders. We serve people. We serve communities, and we're going to make sure that members of Congress and that op-ed that I drafted and DCU sent out, that's been sent to every member of Congress to have the discussion. We have no problem going anywhere at any time defending credit unions' tax status, but let's have an honest discussion about it. All the benefits that when banks come in and try to buy another bank, they can do it through stock options, they can do it all cash, they can do it through cash. They complain about the fact that credit unions have to come in and use all cash. We can't issue stock. What else are we supposed to buy it in? I mean, is it a barter? Or do you have here is three chickens and a cow and we'll get the bank in return or something like that? We only can do all cash. We can't give stock. So credit unions are already at a competitive disadvantage when these bank owners, they don't have a gun to their head. They're not running around town saying, I got to sell to a credit union. They're saying, we want out of the business. Who wants to buy? And if a credit union comes in with the best offer, then that's the best for the bank, its shareholders, its owners, but also most importantly for the community, because the money stays local, the ownership stays local, and the benefits stay local.
And oftentimes when one bank buys another bank, I think the stats show that a credit union that buys a bank is more likely to keep the branches open, more likely to keep the employees employed than a bank that's bought by a bank.
That's exactly right. Banks are looking to consolidate. I mean, it makes no sense to have, two Wells Fargos across from each other or something like that. But, if a bank sells to the local credit union, those people, that branch is going to stay open, the teller stays employed, a job stays in the community, taxes stay in the local community. So it's kind of this red herring that the banking lobby keeps bringing up, that, we continually want to point out the fact that when a bank sells to a credit union, it stays local, and that is ultimately over time in the benefit of the community.
Sure.
I come from rural America. I've seen the hollowing out of small towns, but it's not just small towns. You see the hollowing out of financial institutions in inner cities, in suburban areas, where because of consolidation and bank closures, there are more and more larger banking deserts where there's nothing, or there is something, but you got to take 3 bus stops and 2 transfers to get to if you don't have transportation, and that's wrong. So whatever we can do to ensure that financial institutions stay local, employ local, invest locally, is in long run fulfills, the principles of the credit union movement.
No, I agree with that, and I like to say life's all about maintaining options, right? And in the credit union system, the dual chartering system, right? It's good to have an option. If you're in a state where the rules change and you want to pivot, I mean, there were a couple of big conversions in California recently from state to Fed. 10, 15 years ago, a lot of Feds went to state. That's an option. Buying a bank, selling a bank if you own it is an option. Who you sell it to should be an option. And it's the American way.
And as much as the bank and specifically the ICBA stand up and say they're defending capitalism, they're not. They are using government to control who can and cannot participate in the free in the free selling of an institution. If you're a butcher, should the government come in and tell you, no, you cannot sell to these people or to these people? No, that's wrong. It's whoever, hey, I'm going to sell a T-bone for $5.99. Great, I'm going to buy it. I give you it for $6.99. So I think it's as we point out in that op-ed, it's really about the future of ICBA and the banking lobby and the dues that they get paid. Instead of what's in the long-term best interest of that individual community bank that has made the decision to want to exit the market. And they have every right and should get the highest profit that they can, like when you sell a home.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's great advocacy, right? You're taking, this is what the facts are from the banks, and this is what the facts are from the credit unions, but you're kind of highlighting it in a, hey, Congress, when you look at this, here's really what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And people who don't have a lot of time to read a lot of things, when they can see a soundbite that makes sense, that's factual like that, they can make a decision, they can make a vote instead of listening to the he said, she said.
The greater threat to community banks being gobbled up is through consolidation by larger banks. It's not a credit union walking in. I mean, when Chase Bank has more in assets than in the entire credit union industry, let's be honest here. This is not big Goliath credit unions coming in and dictating to the poor, to the poor banking industry. It's not. It's a small bank that says, we don't want to exist anymore. It's, our family wants to leave, or we don't have a good succession plan, or the board of directors has voted to dissolve because, it's not as profitable anymore. Then, you know what? They should have every right to find the highest price possible. And if that is a credit union, then there should be no issues with it.
You got it. Well, so what other things have been hitting your headlines? What other letters are you about to send to Congress, or what ones that you want to talk about that will come out in the last 3 months?
Obviously, the president has weighed in on the issue of interchange, whether it be Marshall Durbin, which has been around for a long time, or his call for a flat 10% rate cap. Obviously, we have been very vocal in our opposition, not only to Marshall Durbin, but also the 10% rate cap sponsored by Senators Hawley and Bernie Sanders, and then also another bill introduced by Senators Marshall that would only do it for a 1-year term. Credit unions, we're going to be intellectually honest in discussion. Credit unions already live under a rate cap. We have the 15%. The NCUA just, the temporary that can go up 3%. It's been extended by the NCUA just within the last couple of weeks. It's at 18%. We already live under that. And we've made decisions. We've been able to build out credit profiles and the ability to use that 15 to 18 as a way to ensure that there is access to capital for an 850 credit score to a 500 credit score. And that's who we're particularly worried about, is the lower credit scores of the people who don't have a credit profile, because then you charge them a little bit of interest because it's a greater risk for the credit union. And there's many credit unions that are below 10%. That's fantastic, but not everyone is going to get that because they don't have a great credit score, or they're 18 years old. And in our situation, they're, a new airman or Marine or, sailor, and they go to the local credit union. They say, no, because you don't have a good credit history or solid credit history, we don't have the resources to take the risk on you. Just go out the front gate to the payday loan lenders. That's what we're doing. If we allow a 10% rate cap to come into place, we are marching our members of our military, young people all across this country, straight into the hands of the payday loan lenders, because it's about access to capital. The people that use the card for rewards, or, they're like, we're flying to Hawaii and, we're staying at the Ritz and all those types of fun things. They're not going to have a problem getting a credit card, whether you set it at 10% or 5% or 100%, because, they can. We're worried about those that are like, I need a credit card for my way to be able to say, my car breaks down, I need $300. That's what it is for us. For that airman that's like, hey, I don't get paid till Friday. I need groceries for the kids now I'm going to use my credit card, my access to capital, to take it until I can pay the card off at the end of the week. And, that is an existential threat, not only to credit unions, but pretty much the entire financial industry. If that goes into effect, the president said that it had to be done by January 2nd. We expected an executive order. Haven't seen it yet. with tonight's State of the Union address, we're expecting that there's going to be issues of affordability, housing affordability, and all that, and maybe Marshall, Durbin, and interchange rates and the 10% get referenced, which will kind of stoke that fire again. But we're ready. It's rare when banks and credit unions agree, but at the beginning of this in January, AMBA, which is our counterpart for military banks, we signed a joint letter with them talking about on Marshall, Durbin, but you can extrapolate it to the 10% rate cap proposal that, for banks and credit unions, this needs to be opposed. While it sounds good, like a lot of things, they sound great until you got to take the medicine. And the fact that, hey, I don't have a credit card anymore because I got a 650 credit score. Sorry, it's more. We don't have that revenue to continually take a risk on you or people with your credit profile.
Sure, yeah. The unintended consequences of it, 10% sounds great. The unintended consequences of 10%, vastly more harm than good done by that. Probably on a scale of 10 to 1. So
right, and we're kind of left up to deal with it. And while we're pushing back on interchange here in Washington, it's in the state levels as well. You have the issue what's going on in Illinois now that the judges ruled. You're going to have banks and credit unions if you use a card. For in the state that the tips, and I think the tips and the sales tax is not going to be for interchange. So we're going to have to solve that problem. I'm flying through O'Hare and oops, I don't pay the interchange fee here and I pay it over there. And, you're going to see that legislation introduced in more states. It was last sessions. You're going to see more of it going around this country. You might see an attempt to target state chartered credit unions with those types of more restrictive, what they can't pass at the federal level, because we can touch you at the state level. You might then, if those laws start passing in the states, then you might see a transition, as you talked about. We're going to shift from state to federal charters. And so they might have to deal with this stuff anymore because, the state legislature didn't listen to us. So it's advocacy, and what we're dealing with is not just restricted to the Beltway anymore. It's in your state capitals, and God forbid, it goes down into your county commissions or anywhere where they set a sales tax. And then they say, nope, not going to be subject to interchange. Okay, now we're going to have different pricing profiles, different technology. I mean, I'd pull my hair out if I got, I've got to set up a payment network that can handle maybe 50, 100, 200 different permutations of where I'm at, what time, what geography, what gets an interchange fee, what doesn't. And it's maybe tenths of a penny or something, but that adds up.
sure.
And if it doesn't work, then the customer's not going to get angry at the retailer. The retailer is going to say, well, the banks and the credit unions can't set up a system to do this. We're blameless here. So
Yeah, boy, I think of all the how many third-party agreements that a credit union has that ties to that has to make sure that state works, and that vendor is based somewhere else halfway across the country, and then the examiners come in and did you do your third-party due diligence? Yeah, a lot of the tentacles to that.
I know
To that one as well. Wow. Yeah. I also see a lot on LinkedIn where you're announcing new members quite frequently.
No, we're very happy about that. Since last, we'll call it the year since the last GAC Defense Matters in Washington, D.C., we've had about a 30% growth. We're incredibly excited. We've got a lot more that we'll be announcing of credit unions of all sizes. The great thing is that, we live by a motto that you can pay more, but you're not going to get better in terms of advocacy. And we try to live that every day. And we have a capped, a due system that even the largest of the largest credit union, the most you can pay is like $22,000. And most credit unions, most of our members pay like $600 to $1,000, maybe a couple $1,000. So, we base it on asset size, but we do cap it so that we aren't chasing dues. We are chasing policy. And we are blessed that we have other ways that we fund the organization and fund our activities so that, at that year, a CEO or a board chair is like, who should be a part of, what's the return on investment that, the return on investment that they get by becoming either a full-time or an associate member of DCUC is absolutely incredible. I mean, the most if you're not a full-time member, the most you can pay is $3,000. And the only thing you don't get is you don't get to vote on things at our annual meeting. So we're happy to, we get credit unions kind of every day reaching out to us that are not defense credit unions, because we have a saying, we're built for defense, but we're open to all, because the issues that impact defense credit unions impact every credit union. Tax status, interchange, rate caps, that's a fight every credit union is in. Where we come with the special sauce is the fact we bring a uniqueness with dealing with DOD, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and dealing with the military community, that more and more credit unions are bumping into as, what happens, when troops are deployed. They go into a different pay status, which is kind of a different allocation, and people don't have it. We had a credit union sign up because they had never had anyone come in and ask about a VA loan, home loan before. And so they didn't know the forms to give, and, and those types of things. So it's like, can you teach us? We teach you how to do those things. What services are available to veterans and service members as they're transitioning out, and what they need. So that's kind of the secret sauce we bring, is not only that we work on behalf of all the credit union issues, whether you're PenFed down to the smallest credit union in the country. So we're happy about that. And, we're willing to work with any credit union, with whatever whatever issue that they need.
That's fantastic, because every credit union has a veteran, and that percentage is probably
Well,
not.
yeah, we used to say that, but, the Department of Veterans Affairs came down, and in every zip code, there's a veteran. So we've extrapolated every credit union in their field of membership has a veteran.
Yep.
And so there's a unique opportunity that we can help bring to them to reach out and interact with that community so that they see you as you're part of my family. And that's incredibly important to the military, is that, have you been in the foxhole with you? One person described it to me. Have you do you understand what a PCS means, and the stress that happens, and the fact that you moving from Minot Air Force Base down to Barksdale Air Force Base because you're B-52 pilot, and, that PCS, and, the need for the home loan so you can purchase the new place where you're going to be and move your family into, the kind of make sure that it goes seamless, and kind of the questions that are going to get asked, and the importance of some of those questions that are being asked that they normally don't get asked in the normal home loan application process.
Great point on all fronts there. So you mentioned GAC, your GAC. What events? What events are coming up for your organization that credit unions might want to be aware of, that you might want to highlight here?
If you're at GAC, we have what we call Defense Matters. It's Tuesday next week from noon to 2, where we give a quick update with what's going on. We just started. We sent out to all of our CEOs and our military advocacy committee. We'll be sending out to the leagues and anyone who asks, in our system partners, one-pagers on topics that they could use for when they're doing the hike the hills from now and moving forward. That includes our advocacy priorities. We're happy that we've got Congressman Herodopoulos from Florida, who's going to be giving us kind of a view from the Hill. He is on House Financial Services. He's got Space Coast Federal Credit Union in his district, so that's a defense credit union and a member of DCUC. So there's going to be a unique discussion there. We're going to have a regulatory and advocacy update. One nice thing is that if you go to DCUC.org and go to our events and on Defense Matters, you kind of see the full lineup. We're having the discussion on interchange and on rate cap, and you can see the full kind of lineup of our speakers. It's an incredible opportunity for that brief moment of time that many people are in town for GAC to reconnect with their DCUC compatriots and discuss issues that are important to defense related credit unions moving forward. Then something that's kind of really exciting. And again, if you go to our website, DCUC.org, and go to the event site, it's called the CU Unplugged. It's going to be out in the San Francisco area at the end of March. It's kind of a unique situation to kind of talk about tech topics, issues that are going to be facing credit unions, not from a talk from the stage down, but the entire agenda and discussions that come from the people that are there. Breakouts talk about issues. It's something that's never been done in the credit union movement before. So we're throwing it out there, starting small, and hopefully over a few years grow it up. and then go back, be able to point to, hey, that was a discussion at this table as we were having ice cream or something, and now it's a law or a new policy or something like that. I think that kind of free-flowing exchange of ideas is important. I kind of consider it's like the splitting of the atom. You got one, you cut, and they just bounce off each other, and you're getting more activity. Then, again, if you look at our events website, we call them our sub-councils. It's where credit unions and DCUC members in areas of the country can come together, talk about issues. It's a one-day, normally a lunch, some speakers. Our next one's going to be up in the Northwest. So you're happy, just please, if you're interested, go to the website, click on it, you'll get all the information. And then we'll have one in the Midwest, we'll have one in the Northeast again, and then we're popping those up all across the country because we know when it comes to travel, it's usually the first thing that's cut when you're doing your budgets. So if we can come to you and make it as easy upon you to maybe drive an hour, meet with your compatriots, you don't have to get on a plane, you don't have to spend hotel money. We're trying to bring DCUC to you across the country that we're thankful for. Then into July, first part of August, we have our annual meeting. It's going to be down in Miami. As a kid from North and South Dakota, nothing is more exciting than Florida in the middle of the summer. So I will be melting there like Frosty the Snowman. But it's a great opportunity. It's if you've never gone before, I know people will say this, it's a conference unlike any others. This one really is. It's family. The defense community of which we are born from and is part of our DNA and who we represent. It's so incredibly unique and powerful in terms of our ability to come together, share issues, bump into each other, recharge each other's batteries, talk about issues that are happening, and have a little bit of camaraderie. And then what's unique to DCUC is because we serve the military, our military is not just within the 48 states and Alaska and Hawaii and Puerto Rico, we're across the globe. And so we have an annual meeting that's overseas. Normally it's in Europe with our European bases and their credit unions that serve there. But as the threat axis switches a little bit, and there's going to be more growth into the Pacific area, you've seen the Air Force talking about setting up 5 more bases and stuff like that. We're going to be having our overseas meeting. It's on our website over in Bangkok, Thailand this year.
Oh, wow.
State Department Federal Credit Union is the sponsor of it. They are a member of DCUC because of the Marines that are stationed at the embassies. They serve them. You can be, they're a member. And it's to kind of change looking across the country, across the globe, and the issues that our military members and their families experience as they are deployed overseas, and how we can serve them as their financial institution. And it's something new for us. We haven't been over there in that area of the globe in a significant amount of time, but we look forward to it. So there's a lot going on, but all of that will not distract us from what we're doing up on Capitol Hill, and that's fighting for every credit union across this country.
That's fantastic. And that whole Unplugged concept, I like that. I think back to the MTV Unplugged days, and that's where I was introduced to Nirvana and 10,000 Maniacs. And some of those unplugged versions are better than the real ones. And that might be the kind of ideas that you're going for at that particular event. But you guys got a lot going on. It's fantastic.
No, we're hitting the ground running. I mean, we're a group of, our staff is 7 people, but we punch above our weight.
Well, that lets you be nimble too, right?
It does.
There's not a lot of people to convince when something happens quick and you got to move quick. You're able to be nimble, which is probably a tremendous advantage.
It is. And I think that's very important for our credit unions, that we're able to seize upon opportunities and interject ourselves where others take longer time to make the decision. Things move. It used to be a news cycle a day. I come from the comms area as well, up on Capitol Hill. But now it's like 5 news cycles in a day. And so if you're not moving at that speed, you're falling behind. And that's where we try to position, or I've tried to position DCU's advocacy, is that we're over the event horizon. We're looking for the next threat, or trying to cause help start the next fight that's going to come in 3 or 6 months, rather than responding to what's happening at 6 a.m. in that day.
Sure. Fantastic. So Jason, if someone wants to reach out to become a member, or you've given the website, is there someone they should reach out to particularly, or if they wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Through the
Best way,
website?
just you can email me directly. You can also go to the website. It has all of our contact info, but jstverak@dcuc.org. Happy to handle anything and get you to the right person. So
Fantastic. As always, I enjoy learning what you're doing to help credit unions and their members. Thanks so much, Jason.
thanks, Mark.
You got it. And listeners, watchers, as always, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This is Mark Treichel signing off with flying colors.